Hello, everyone. My name is Andres Abeyta. I'm the Executive Director of Bootcamp GIS, education platform for geospatial courses that people want to come in and help improve your portfolio with some GIS skills. And I'm really excited today to have Jeremy Huey on the phone with us. Hey, how's it going, Jeremy?
Good. How are you today, Andres?
I'm great. I want to give everybody a little bit of background on you before we go into this because it's a very interesting, non-stereotypical path into our industry. He lives in Pasadena, California, which is where the Parade of Roses happens. A beautiful place.
Yeah.
He runs his own company called Occam Solutions. Been in business with thriving clientele for several years. And he's come out of the Navy as a jet mechanic, gone through the Peace Corps where he learns GIS skills all the way to running his own business. So we have an audience of a variety of types of people that are also coming out of the military as engineers possibly and wanting to do their own thing in GIS, or people who have found GIS as a possible career path. And this is why your story, Jeremy, is really interesting. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how did you kind of get exposed to GIS and what gave you the bug to want to start your own business?
Yeah, my story is anthropology degree, Peace Corps, learning some mapping skills in the Peace Corps after the military, and then sort of finding out that GIS was a job that was out there, and so I got a master's degree in GIS and just sort of started my career from there.
So yeah, that's fascinating. And I get lots of students that come to us kind of in the same boat. Hey, I've got this history, environmental sciences, anthropology degree. Can I pick up GIS? And I say, absolutely. There's people like you and I who get exposed to a piece of tech and start figuring things out. And nowadays with, good YouTube videos, tutorials, Esri types of training, it is totally pick upable. What was how did you learn GIS?
Yeah, so when I was in the Peace Corps, we were doing aqueduct mapping. So we had to bring water to indigenous tribes in the middle of the jungle. And we did have little GPS units out there with us. So we would kind of like walk through the jungle and take a GPS point, walk through the jungle, take a GPS point. So every time there was kind of a turn in the pipe or a major feature that we wanted the pipes to go over, you have to consider taking PVC tubes through the jungle over hills, and so I was both mapping with a GPS unit and on paper, and learning how to take GPS data points and convert that into kind of not that great of maps at first.
So then learning it kind of like on the job is one thing, but then deciding to go ahead and try to start your own business, that's a big leap. Yeah. What was it that made you feel confident enough that you could do that?
Well, it was not a fast leap. I got my master's degree in GIS, which, I vacillate whether I needed a master's degree in GIS sometimes. That's a different discussion. But I started working for an engineering firm, and they just had me out as a field tech. Actually, my first job was pretty interesting. It was finding unexploded ordnance in the Rocky Mountains. And so I was hired as a field technician to go and help find all these explosives. And then we had explosive ordnance guys go out and blow them up. For 3 years, I worked with that company, HDR, great engineering firm, big, globally recognized engineering firm. And I really picked up a lot of not only the skills that I needed to be a successful GIS person, but I got a lot of great adventure, good education from them, the work experience. They paid for my conferences. So having sort of your first handful of years in this industry, working for people that can sort of foster your career and help move you forward, that I think is very important.
Yeah, I did the same thing. After I left college, I worked for ERDOS, doing education, geospatial and remote sensing training for a couple of years. And that's how I cut my teeth. So very similar path to you. And that's a wise thing to do. Learn from some others. And then once you have the skill sets, then learn the business side of stuff, which is a whole other thing.
Right. And that brings me to my second job, which was as a GIS manager for SWCA. And I was a regional manager. And that's sort of where I started picking up that business side of things that you're talking about. Learning what billing rates are, how much does stuff actually cost? And I think that having that sort of baseline understanding or that foundation of being able to put a proposal together, being able to put a bid together, understanding how many hours things take, really spending those years getting to know your profession, your trade, and the different types of players in the industry. Those are the things that lead to successful, not only business leadership, but business development.
So that's a good background. Jeremy teaches a class on our platform on how GIS is used for the huge construction industry. So he has clients and he does this day in and day out. Maybe you can give us some insights, Jeremy, on how GIS is generally used in the construction process.
Yeah. So the world of construction is, anything from $1,000 house remodels to billion-dollar electrical engineering projects, right? So in general, I think that when you're supporting construction projects with GIS, that they want to not only have sort of, the basic information about like where the construction project is and what's around it. There's all sorts of government websites that help you find spatial data like stream corridors and special status species and just state and federal data. I mean, really is the heart and soul of GIS support for construction, right? So you have all of these different projects happening all over the United States, all over the world. And I would say a really good GIS sort of analyst or support technician is a person who can find as much information as possible about the location that a project is happening.
Yeah, so I'm really curious about this myself because I've had 6 years, an undergraduate degree and a master's degree in geography, where we did geospatial thinking and projects, and it was all around conservation, maybe some urban applications, but never once did I have an instructor talk about the construction process. All of these big engineering companies in which there are probably thousands across the United States and another thousands across the world, because everything built usually hires an engineering companies. Let's maybe go a little bit deeper. What are the types of clients that you see needing your GIS services when you're running your business that need you?
Well, if you think about these large engineering firms that are out there that are working with, SoCal Gas and Southern California Edison and PG&E, right? They probably already have a GIS and planning department. These are large companies that have a lot of GIS support, a lot of planning support, engineers, architectures, all that stuff.
Yeah, you used to work for a couple of them.
Yeah. But I found out while working for them that they have to hire subcontractors. They have to hire out different small companies because they have quotas, especially in California and a couple of other states. The work that's distributed can't just necessarily be distributed to one large company. So these companies are responsible for helping their clients divvy up that block of money and help other small companies succeed across the state.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Especially, I know mostly on the federal sector that about half of the project has to be given out to smaller subcontracted companies. So if it's a person that puts in the windows in a building, does the GIS, does a soil sampling, there's room for companies that have these specializations.
Right, and those companies don't always have GIS people, and so that's kind of where I come in. Is I say, okay, you're a small company, you're specialized. you know how to do the reporting, you know how to do your field work, but I want to help you with your data. I want to help you with collector, with your applications. I want to help you make your maps, your reports, your figures, your graphics. So that's really kind of how I learned how to start a business, was working for all these other companies and learning, oh, they have these subcontractors that are sometimes just, little mom and pop shops, 2, 3 people, that don't have a lot of different types of support. They need a GIS person just like they need an accountant. And so if you can find all of these small clients out there, you can find, 2, 3, 20 hours a month of work that they need support doing. And they don't necessarily want to buy the licenses and have the computers and the data and all, especially if it's just a couple hours a month. So that really puts them in a financial predicament. Having a GIS specialist like me that owns his own company that can just help a few hours a week or a month, that's a really big deal for them.
That's great. So when you think about doing your job, I know our audience is curious about how diverse, much variety is in it, because that makes a job just more interesting. So in terms of field work, how much would you get out in the field?
When I first started, I was out doing collector training with clients on a weekly basis. I was out flying the drone on almost a weekly basis. I think that, a lot of GIS people can sort of choose to either be field support GIS type people or really office support type GIS people. There is a good mix of GIS professionals who spend as much time in the field as they do in the office. So again, for me, a couple times a month.
All right. So you mentioned collector. Can you tell the audience what types of software technologies or even hardware technologies you use in your business?
Yeah, sure. Well, obviously, I'm kind of Esri centric. There are QGIS options out there. There's a lot of different application packages out there that make sense to use, especially for small businesses. What I've seen is both federal, state, local governments, where a lot of the monies are coming from. They're all trying to integrate into these Esri platforms. So whether they're using the story maps, they're using the collector application for their field technicians to be out and about. They're doing drone work. They're doing survey forms. Esri houses all of those things. And so it seems to be easier for these people to be in the Esri sphere. I know some people don't like hearing that. There are a lot of people out there that are really adamant about using GIS softwares like QGIS. And there are people that work solely in Google Earth, call that a GIS platform or not. A lot of the monies, a lot of the future developments that are happening across the United States, really sort of Esri-centric platforms. So I find myself using ArcGIS Pro, not ArcMap anymore, very rarely, Drone to Map, Survey 123, Collector, the story, all of the online dashboard stuff is really useful. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm using, and a little bit of AutoCAD occasionally as well.
So you mentioned drone to map, so it must be UAV data processing. What you do with the data once you've collected it off your drone is instrumental in your process to delivering data to your clients.
Yeah, it can be, and it really depends on the project. I'll have clients that'll ask me if we should fly a drone. That's the big thing now. It's like, hey, let's go fly a drone. I think it just depends on the project and when it makes sense, right? Because we can go into Esri, we can go into Google Earth, we can look at aerial imagery sources from all sorts of places now. When you're making an impact, like a construction project, that makes a lot of sense, right? So we're going to basically bulldoze a a grassy field and we're going to put a building there, or we're going to run an electrical system across an area. It's nice to have before and after imagery of these construction footprints, because sometimes construction companies are held responsible for impacts that they might have to make mitigation for. And the drone imagery, that before and after sort of snapshot of the environment, could be really important. I think that drones are great if they're deployed appropriately.
So all of this framework of what Jeremy talks about is embedded in his class to show new users how to use the workflow steps of GIS in support of construction projects. So that's really great to have your experience and you to be talking about that. I want to shift gears a little bit. And
Sure.
I put out a poll to some of our students in different places, and I said, hey, we're going to have Jeremy on. And they also had some questions that in mind they didn't know about. So I'm going to shoot them to you. Carmen from St. Petersburg asks, I know your course lessons are video-based. Are there any prerequisites to bring me up to speed as a basic GIS user for your class?
So I think that in general, my class is really going to take any sort of user, a basic GIS user to an experienced GIS user, and help them understand a workflow, a process to help support construction. That being said, I think that having a good, working knowledge of GIS, ArcGIS Pro, that's helpful. It's not necessary. I am going to be kind of teaching sort of click by click and point by point how to do things. But in general, I just think that having that basic knowledge of GIS software and maybe even the ArcGIS 20 book, it's nice to have that the 20 essential skills, they say.
Yeah, and we talk to students and see if they're really weak coming to us with no GIS experience. In that case, we'll offer some free prerequisites that you can take as far as tutorials. But otherwise, we can look at your videos step by step, and like YouTube, they're recorded. So it's really hard to get lost. And even if it's something highly technical, such as some drone processing or a Python script or a dashboard, I'm seeing you do it in front of me. So I can do it. So that's the beauty of our format. All right. Kevin from Des Moines, Iowa says, what were your first steps to setting up your business after leaving, looks like the Peace Corps? On the business side of things, how did you do that?
Well, after the Peace Corps, I worked for 2 companies for 6-7 years. So I think the most important thing you need to do to start your own company is to get industry experience, get knowledge. I always tell people to get knowledge on other people's dime. That means go to conferences, meet people, have your first couple of jobs, make mistakes, on their dollar. As silly as that sounds, you're not going to really understand or be able to wrap your head around GIS business and be a successful business person without having a really good knowledge of the industry first. And not just having a good knowledge of the industry, but I think kind of being a gregarious person, talking to people, reaching out on LinkedIn. Again, those Esri conferences, maybe you're not excited about any of the classes, but you should be excited about meeting all the people, seeing the new technology, and just kind of keeping your social sort of resume up to date. The more people see your face, the more they want to interact with you. And those are potential clients in the future.
All of that resonates with me. You could be super, super technical and really good, but if you are not willing to reach out to people, that phone is not going to ring.
Doesn't ring itself.
So I hear you there. All right. Miguel from Salt Lake City says, I've been learning Python and web app development. Do construction projects need these skills?
So Just a fair bit of honesty from my end. I'm not the most super technical Python scripting guy. I can do a little basic model building. I can do basic queries, and but I don't personally script a lot. I actually have a guy who helps me with the scripting, and he probably creates 1 or 2 codes for me a year that sort of help with my workflows and help with my sort of production, just speeding up production in general. I think you can still be successful in this industry, especially with all of the really great model building tools that Esri has.
All right, good answer. A question from Glenn from St. Louis. I've been thinking about getting a drone myself. How long did you practice with drone data collection process before you felt comfortable listing this as a consulting service?
Yeah, so drones have only been around for about 5, 6, 7 years as a practical application to be used in the field, right? Probably around 2014, 2015, did we really start seeing the first affordable off-the-shelf drones that any company or average GIS person could really start using. And so I think that this is something in development. Everybody's still learning how to use drones efficiently. Everybody's still choosing their favorite softwares, their favorite applications. And even the hardware right now is just, what's better, DJI or Parrot, or, so I've been working with drones for 6 years now. I've been a licensed drone pilot for 5 years. But I would say in general, the skills are still sort of new for everybody. So I think that I'm still learning things every day, and that a lot of the softwares that are coming out now, Pix4D, Drone to Map, are making it easier for people to really create beautiful products, even on their first few drone flights.
Yeah, I would take that even further. It's not just, UAV data collection that's always evolving. It's everything, all tech, the entire Esri suite, QGIS, cloud, new areas in data science and AI. It's always changing, and that's why I give a talk called the Spotification of your GIS education. You better have a feed of regular stuff going into your brain, informing you of all the different changes that are happening, because they happen every week. And if you don't pay attention to them, then you can easily find yourself getting out of date quickly. So if you're going to be in tech, it's a lifestyle of ongoing learning that you have to be ready for.
I'll just touch on that point real quick and tell you that when I started my company, I started with ArcMap 10.8, right? I had built all these really great efficiencies in ArcMap 10.8. I had all these toolboxes built. I had all these, I was so great at Arc 10.8. And then 2.5 years into my business, it starts acting funny. It becomes obsolete. Everyone's moving to Pro. The online dashboards are becoming more and more available. Story maps and collector platforms are changing. 1 year it was beta, and now it's the new map systems in the Esri platform. So you have to be comfortable evolving with the software every year.
All right. Well, these have been great insights, Jeremy. I really appreciate getting them to you in such a concise fashion here. Jeremy is an example of our subject matter expert SME instructors that are on our platform. You can come in and take 1 class or get a series of 6 classes to earn an Enterprise GIS certificate. Enterprise means, how we set up GIS for an organization and develop workflows and apps and things that make a difference in big decisions. No longer is it just creating a single map and having 2 people look at it. So I encourage you, if you're interested in pursuing this career path, you can get exposure to people like Jeremy and get the real on-the-ground mechanics and insights on how we do industry solving problems. So thanks again for coming along with us, Jeremy. It was awesome having you.
Thanks, Andres.
Hopefully you guys can check out his class.
Yeah. Hope to see you guys there. Thanks, Andres.
All right. Bye-bye.